Sup guys, I'm another METALHEAD. I'm doing 150 classic albums by the end of the year. I'm also doing Patreon requests, and usually with my monthly YouTube schedule, as you can see in my Discord and all of that jazz, I only do albums that are Patreon requested because I have about 500 requests this year so far, it's the 28th of June. This is going to be the quickest turnaround from a recording to upload because usually there's early access over on my Patreon, and that spans months to years sometimes because I've done about 500 reactions in the past 6 months. But yeah, over on my Patreon, usually people request these albums, and this one is the only one that I haven't that hasn't been requested, but I'm going to do anyway, because In Rainbows got requested a lot, and I've been doing Radiohead in chronological order, and I've been very curious to delve into Hail to the Thief, because I want to listen to every single Radiohead album, see what it's about, get my own sort of chronological evolution of their sound and all of that sort of jazz. But yeah, over on my Patreon, $5 might start out to $18 depending on the length of the album. Every single person has the ability to request an album and all that jazz. But with Hail to the Thief, I'm very curious about it. It's one of the only Radiohead projects that just I never expected to be requested because I don't see a lot of fanfare for it. The two albums from Radiohead that I feel like get the least amount of love and praise from what I've heard is Hail to the Thief and King of Limbs. My understanding is King of Limbs is considered the worst if you don't count Pablo Honey, because that one is their debut. They usually dislike it. People usually talk about it as it's the worst, but I never hear Hail to the Thief mentioned. I see that it has good ratings on Album of the Year, which is the music rating website that I use, but I don't hear anyone talk about it. I looked it up, and apparently it's the most overtly political album of theirs, which is interesting to me. I might like it a lot because of that, actually. But yeah, I don't know what it sounds like, because I know Kid A sounds very dystopic and electronic FX Twin sort of stuff. I know, like, Amnesia kind of was that, but a bit warmer. It had its own identity. I don't think it's just B-sides or anything like that, but it's definitely more in the electronic sort of camp. OK Computer is unique in itself. The Bends is like a Britpop noise rocky sort of distortion, and then Pablo Honey is a Led Zeppelin impression. I have no idea what this is. I think, if my understanding is In Rainbows, is its own thing, which I don't even know what that will sound like. Apparently it's very different to all the ones. But yeah, I don't know anything about Hail to the Thief. Even A Moon-Shaped Pool in recent memory gets a lot of love, so I just don't know what to expect when it comes to this record, because no one talks about it. It might be one of the most blind reactions going into it, because Radiohead is such a massive band. Before I went into OK Computer, I knew Letdown and stuff like that. Even before I know from The Bear, I didn't know from TikTok, because I did that years ago. Kid A, I know about because people often talk about that being potentially Radiohead's best. I know about In Rainbows because people talk about it all the time. Moon-Shaped Pool, newer Radiohead fans talk about it, so people around my generation talk about that album. Pablo Honey, I know because of Creep. The Bends, I knew a bit less about that one, but people at least applauded it. I don't know anything about this one. I know less about this one than I do King of Limbs, because people say King of Limbs is their worst album, so I know less about this project compared, I'm going in so blind into this record, and it's the most blind I'll ever go into a Radiohead project, I think. But yeah, let's see how it goes. Let's see if it's warranted that it doesn't get enough, doesn't get spoken about. 2 + 2 = 5 reminds me of like George Orwell stuff, so.
Are you such a dreamer?
Vocally and more OK Computer than other stuff, I feel.
I stay home forever, but tuned to always makes a 5. I'll lay down the tracks, sandbag high. January as April shines.
I'm assuming that's climate change sort of stuff. The way I take this is January has April showers, basically like the climate and everything is changing. I know because I'm going to talk more from a progressive lens because I know Radiohead has that sort of politics. So if you're someone that is a Radiohead fan but you don't have the same politics as them or whatever, I'm probably going to be a bit annoying because I'm going to try and talk through what they mean within the track, I guess. But January showers, January has April showers. This was recorded around the time of like the Al Gore sort of stuff when he got his election stolen from George Bush. Yeah, he obviously talks about, like, so climate change is very much on the mind at that time. So January has April showers when it comes to the seasons changing. I'm kind of like in Australia, we had in like 2011, we had a once in a century flood. And then 2 years later, had the same one in a century flood. It was as bad as like the 1974 like Great Flood of like Brisbane and shit like that. But we had that 2 times in 2 years because of it.
It's the devil's way now. There's no way out. You can scream, you can shout. It is too
It's so, I love hearing this. If you know anything about my channel when it comes to anything that's political, I don't bring it up all the time in like a bunch of albums or whatever, but when an album does touch upon it, I am very happy is anything political, because I listened to 300 albums in 2025, none of them had even a lick of what's happening today, and it feels so nice that despite the fact that I was born in 2001, I lived around this time, but I was a kid, so I don't have like a full grasp of knowledge, right? I can listen to this and I can see how it is, like the feeling, the hopelessness, the despair, that sort of thing that was coming from this sort of area, especially, and like I can do that with like What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, but like no one can do anything about that when it comes to fucking anything in the last decade. Like no one, like he, like around this time you had Lupe Fiasco, System of a Down. I'm assuming Radiohead's going to touch on it with George Bush. Like everyone in the 2000s were talking about the like political system and everything like that. They were talking about what was going on in modern politics. No art has done that. It's at best glib throwaways of like maybe a free Palestine or something like that, but it doesn't go into it. It doesn't talk about like anything that's happening. But with this, I like that it's at least giving me a new perspective on it, because I would see that if we have this, it's like the dystopia sort of vibe that we sort of have, the lack of hopefulness. My understanding around this time was George Bush had incredibly high approval ratings, like 80-90%, something like that. I know he reached 90% post 9/11. This was made in 2003, so I'm assuming like 2002 2000 was like roughly when it was made. Maybe he was on a bit of a decline, because I know he was around like 60s or something like that, or 70s in 2004 election, or something around that effect. So I know that was going down. So, but it was still the vast majority of people. And if you're someone that is like a bit more progressive minded, that you care about climate change, you care about like injustice, all that sort of stuff, I can actually now, like I didn't really think about it. It's like, yeah, you would be going through a lot of like, shit, we're fucked. Like we had like the president lie about us going into a war, and he has insane approval rating. I'm in the 10% that doesn't approve of it. And it just seems like everyone is fucked. Like everyone is just like, swarms. Everyone is George Orwell. Everyone's 1984. That sort of thing. I haven't even thought about that, but like, this is why I love having some art that actually delves into some of the politics and stuff like that. Because listening to this, it's like, oh, now I can kind of get where your headspace was. Because, yeah, I haven't even thought about that sort of perspective at the time. I love the sound of this. It feels like a mix of like the bends and OK Computer to me, which I think is fucking sick. I love those two records. They're my two favorites. Oh, I like that timing right there. We'll help them too. What a fucking incredible track. What an absolutely incredible track. If this is the quality of the entire record, I'm going to fucking adore this. And then also I love how overt it is. This is definitely their most overt project. They've spoken upon quite a bit. Like if you look at the lyricism of like OK Computer, that sort of thing, the messages aren't unclear there, but this is very pointed, and I fuck with that absolutely, like, so much. If you haven't watched one of my videos before, I do ratings on the side. These are my first listen ratings. I listen to these projects multiple times before I post them to my Discord, where you can chat to me about my ratings. I'm always active in there. I also post to Am of the Year, which is the music rating website that I use to say 600 written reviews. I've actually done about 1,400 in the last 18 months. I started this channel around that time, and my average rating is a 6 out of 10. I solely think that's because of my Patreon, because over on my Patreon, you can sub for $5, $18 to $18, depending on the length of the album, and because of that, every single album I listen to, apart from this one, is a Patreon request, and they're usually going to request good stuff. They're going to request Bad by Thriller, Thriller and Bad by Michael Jackson. They're going to request Stevie Wonder, that sort of thing, right? So that's why my curve looks like this, which is a nice bell curve, but it's skewed towards the higher ones because all of these bad albums were basically done before I did Patreon. When I started this channel, the reason I did that was because I had maybe listened to 10 albums across my entire life. I'd never heard a Pink Floyd track, that sort of thing. I'd only heard Creep by Radiohead, and I wanted to delve into all the classic albums, and now it's brought me here. But yeah, my average rating is 6 out of 10, but I think spiritually it's a 5 out of 10. If something's a 5.1, I think it's above average. With all that being said, I think this is a 9. I think this is a straight up amazing track. I think even given enough time and enough re-listens, it could even go up to a 10, because I don't necessarily know what's stopping it from being a 10, because I love the message. I love sonically how it sounds, and I think it's just an amazing start. And if I'm already instantly acclimated to this record, but I'm leaving some room to see if there's a track that blows me away a tiny bit more than this one. And yeah, when on re-listens after this recording, I'll re-listen to it and see if it hits a 10. You can go to my Discord and all that to see what happens there. But yeah, just fucking incredible, just absolutely incredible. I really like the concept of Hail to the Thief. Because you have this, like, the thievery that was happening at the government at the time, lying to its people, that sort of thing. And I love this concept, because I never really thought about it. Like, I never really thought, what was it like for the artists, for the people that are progressive, that actually care about, like, change, that sort of thing, at the time when 90% of people were in favor of this, of the president just lying and going into it, in the countries in the Middle East, just lying about it. And it's like, that would feel like Hail to the Thief, like how, like, we're all like bowing down to the king that is like tricking us through thievery and lies, and it's just, yeah, such a good thing. And then also mixing that with the George Orwell sort of stuff of like, he can just lie to us and we'll just eat it up sort of shit. Fucking love it. All right, this one's very kiddo. It sounds like a tiny bit like rain pedals, but it has that electronic tinge, which makes it feel like an inauthentic reality or something. I'm like reaching, but it kind of gives that vibe. I just love Tommy Knox's voice. One of my favorite vocalists. So I'm glad that he's going back to a more vocal-centered tracks. Also, that vocal there, I just realized I knew there was some, like, I guess, like, influence by Geese from Radiohead, like, I heard that. But this vocal here just sounds like Cameron Winter on new records. Like the government issuing commands, sit down, be obedient, we can wipe you out at any single time. I just read, sorry to pause, I really like the titles of each of these tracks, like, the fact that we're doing 2 + 2 = 5, George Orwell, doublespeak sort of stuff. Having the brackets and having, like, the names of each track, I didn't pick up on it until now, I guess, because blind reaction, that I like how it's very Orwellian, basically just having, the track of, like, what, it's doublespeak, having the track of sit down, stand up, 2 + 2 = 5, sail to the moon, all these sort of things, go to sleep, when where I end and you begin, like, all these sort of things is exactly what, like, the fucking government or Big Brother or whatever the fuck would be saying, and then you have, like, the actual names of the tracks in the parentheses. I really like the concept, really well thought out. This would grow to easily be a top 3 album of Radiohead for me. It's such a synthetic raindrop. I love hearing the way that these artists evolve. It's I started out, the reason I got to do Radiohead and chronologically was because I didn't have Patreon requests, and I love every single Patreon request, no matter what. But the one thing I do appreciate about, like, these artists that I started by myself and then got the Patreon requests is the fact that I'm doing it chronologically, like, hearing Kanye West go over time, like, how does his like, sound change, when he makes a creative leap, what happens, that sort of thing. And I feel like I kind of get the same thing with Radiohead here, like, when I'm looking here, when I'm looking at the lasery sounds, the electronic sort of stuff, all this, it's like, they couldn't have made Hail to the Thief if they hadn't made Kid A. And that's really cool, despite the fact that this is a completely different album to that. And I kind of get the same sort of feeling when I'm listening to like a Kanye West. It's like he couldn't have made anything he made recently, which a lot of it isn't the best, but he couldn't have made that if he didn't make Yeezus, because I can hear that in there. I can hear in Yeezus, I can hear some of the Mike Dean sort of influence when it comes to My Built Dark Twist Fantasy. I can hear 808s and Heartbreak in other, like his later projects. And I like seeing that sort of creative sort of stuff unravel. And it's really fucking nice to be able to see that evolution. And I now see it with Radiohead quite a bit. When I'm doing like Deftones, it feels like they're morphing and switching, but they're not they don't have like a mosaic of all of their past albums within their new ones so far. And I don't care because I love Deftones either way. But with Radiohead or like Kanye West, it's really cool to see how like there's the mosaic of the fingerprints of the previous albums on these ones, and I think it's really cool. But yeah, I'd give this track an 8. I think it's quite a great track. Solid as fuck. Very pretty, very different to anything they've done. Like this reminds me of sort of like maybe some Japanese sort of like, it reminds me of like Nujabi's Serenity in a bit. I love how they're focusing on his voice.
I spoke too soon. And how much did it cost? I was dry from
Talking about the future generation. This is fucking stunning. I think it's not lost. I'll pause it here for so I can have the outro into the next track. But it's not lost to me that he's using "You'll build an ark, flood," all this biblical sort of language, because there is such a fragile sort of optimism towards it. Like when you have these this sort of hope that like the next generation will be a president that will do the right thing. There is a pessimism there, because you to have it to be akin to a religious sort of like parable, and having it to be yeah, a religious parable is putting a level of faith into it, which means that you don't think it's grounded in materialism. You don't see hope, but you're desperately clinging on for that to be the case. Like I hope that you build an arc sails to the moon. And I think it showcases the sort of despair that this record was sort of created in, the lack of hope there, because you don't think it's possible for you to fix it. You don't think it's possible for that sort of thing to happen. You're just hoping that the next generation can do that. And actually, this teaches me more about like the history of the time. Because I knew of Obama being absolutely like go with the source with getting elected with so much fucking galvanization, and his thing was hope. And hearing this and hearing a lot of that sort of like hearing specifically this record, it's like, yeah, actually the antidote for this sort of time was hope. Where yeah, where like I have only heard like System of a Down where it's just like anger, angst, good punk shit. I like that. With Mesmerize being like pointing directly at like the fuckedness of the world, but with a bit of a cheeky angle with like violent pornography and that sort of stuff, like System of a Down cheek. And then you have like Food and Liquor, which is trying to make a very like poignant, like point and then hide it under like the eyes of the big brother by putting it into pop rap and that sort of thing, having very overtly political stuff. But if you listen to it, it just kind of sounds like your typical J. Cole sort of stuff. And I think that's really cool. But like having this distill the lack of hope down and see, oh, that's where the sentiment lied for a figure like Obama to come in and capitalize on that. Yeah, it's cool. The teachers quite a decent thing. What I was talking about with like what I was wanting to talk about though on like 2 + 2 = 5 though is there feels to be at least some optimism that things can get better, even though it's broken, because I feel like it's a lot easier to look at like a government that's doing something fucked and like bouncing off of that, where oh, these people are being lied to, but they're being lied to by the government in like a very direct sort of fashion. That means that you can protest it more. When it comes to like modern day sort of stuff, I don't see any music delve on that because everyone's a fucking pussy. But when it comes to anything political, today we are living in more pussy times than ever when it comes to talking about shit. But or at least that's my perspective. I could be just wrong. But like I did listen to 300 albums and no one talked about fucking anything. Where I can at least point to a political album from every single year. But yeah, with this, like we're living in completely different realities and it's nebulous, where people don't necessarily see like Trump has his own fucking media wing. He will before Charlie Kirk died, he would talk to Charlie Kirk, and then he would talk to Benny Johnson, and he would talk to all these alternative media figures that are just state-run media, and then he will talk to Joe Rogan, and they will all just say the exact same things that he said from up top. The media ecosystem is him being like is distrust of mainstream media by doing a bunch of shit to make people distrust the mainstream media. Also, they did it themselves as well. And then build up these alternative media spaces that have no checks and balances, because at least mainstream media has a tiny bit, has no checks and balances, and then use those as your propaganda wing because they're alternative and they're independent when they're not, like they're actively within the White House. And spread the information through there but like not tell you the thing directly, but to concoct with fake narratives and facts for you to feel like you got to it on your own. And in that world, you are entrenched in this false reality, and every single one of us are in it. If you even if we can agree on this, even if you disagree with like my perception there, we all live in different realities. You might even think I live in that different reality and I'm the one that's duped. But we all live in those different realities, and because of that, we can't fight anything because we don't have something to point to. Where with the George Bush thing, you can point to it. You're like, everyone's being duped by this one group, like this one thing. We can point to it. But with the way that this flooding the noise system that we did with like internet and how they've co-opted a bunch of different like social media sites and fucking people and alternative media personalities that people trust into for some reason, they make it so it feels like you got to the point yourself instead of being told it and then believing it, which means that it's a lot harder to disentangle, and it means that they're in that false reality that's a lot harder to like point to. Like if I went to like a Trump person and went, oh, Trump's lying here, they'll defend it religiously, and they're like, but they'll also say in the side of their breath, I'm not a fan of Trump or something like that. They'll like believe that they're not a fan of the things that they're being useful idiots. Everyone's being useful idiots. You could even say, I'm being a useful idiot for whatever fucking side you think I'm on. And we're all in that sort of space, and that makes it a lot harder to deal with. And I feel like that's like a tiny bit of a difference between now and then. And maybe one of the reasons why we don't see albums like this. Because albums like this is, oh, at least you can make art because you can point to something. When it comes to modern day sort of stuff, we're all in our different little realities that anything we point to is wispy. Like, no one's going to be able to see the material difference because they will view the exact same thing as different. They will, like, you can point to a rock and they'll see a seal. Where, like, before, you would go, oh, that rock is pretty. They'll go, no, that looks disgusting. And you would debate on if it is. Oh, look at that algae, it's gross. At least back then, you could at least point to the rock and then debate that. Even if you both are seeing a different rock, you're seeing a rock. Where now, we're seeing completely different fucking things. And I think maybe that is part of the reason why we would see more overtly political stuff like this compared to what like back then than what we see now. Sorry for the ramble. Hopefully that was just somewhat coherent. But yeah. I like how it sits you in that despair. I feel like it drives home the point. Like to showcase how fragile it is. Also, this is a really cool sound. The one thing I always love about Radiohead is just how proficient they are whenever they touch on a different sound. I really like the sound of this one. It sounds great, but it feels like less to grapple onto. But it sounds real pretty. Whoa. I guess it just fits more into like the despair sort of angle, like the lack of hopefulness. It sounds really nice. I think it's still like a great track. I don't know if on re-listens I'll figure it out. Like, do I like sit down and stand up or backdrifts more? I like the messages of sit down, stand up more. I like how this sounds a bit more, I think. So yeah, I'll figure that out at some point. I think this is the best sounding. I think I feel like I like this, how it sounds, this one more than Kid A. Also, this reminds me of like Firefly.
Something for the vagabond man over my dead body. Something big is gonna happen over my dead body.
I like this one. I think it's. I know this one's just another great track. It lets you revel in the message of like all 2 centerpiece tracks. I feel, but it does in a cool way because I just like how it sounds. Ooh, I love the song. I like this more than the 3/8, but I don't know if I like it as much as that. I really like it though. It sounds gorgeous. Such a unique sound. I wonder where it's coming from. Like this just sounds so. I haven't heard anything like this. The way that it's like a string sort of thing is swelling, but it's like I don't know. I love it. I love how, like, I don't know because I haven't really heard of, like, anything until I haven't heard anything outside of the stuff I've heard on this channel, right? But there's like a southern sort of aspect to the last two tracks here that I really fucking like. And I don't even know if it is southern, but it's just like there's a drawl, like a Louisiana drawl, whatever the fuck that is. That's in some of these tracks that I really fucking appreciate. And adds like a nice tone to it. Because they can often get into very like just pretty. Like they just sound very pretty and like proper, a bit British, a bit pretentious. And I feel like having a bit of that southern drawl kind of gives it a, which it isn't, but let me just go with that. The southern drawl, that's not there, but I think it is. Adds like a nice little dynamic to bounce off of it. Like there's like this deeper sort of warmer tones that I think is really nice. I like the piano. I like how deep it sounds. I think it kind of touches similarly with like the We Suck Your Blood, Vampiric, that sort of thing, and this feels like a gothic piano, which I appreciate.
Are you hungry? Are you sick? Are you begging for break?
Yorkie's vocals still good.
Are you sweet? Are you afraid? Are you strung up by the rails? We walk the
I find it to be maybe like a bit of an interesting sort of perspective to view this through the lens of the Orwellian sort of thing of like the system clamping down and causing this like despair and lack of optimism. Through the lens of a vampiric sort of analogy, I can kind of see where it comes from. I feel like the album could potentially go down a route where it doesn't like fulfill its potential of being able to talk about like the realer sort of like points, because like at the start with like 2 + 2 = 5, there was a lot of stuff that you could draw upon that was like from the time period, that sort of thing, so it feels more prescient. Well, like the album could have end up going into basically circling around the same sort of point, and I feel like this is sort of a that kind of thing where we've touched on the despair, the going to sleep, where does the end begin, all that sort of stuff. We've been touching on this for a bit. And I understand that's a different sort of like angle that it's taking. So like we are going through like a more vampiric thing, and I do think it adds a slight like interesting little angle of it, of like how the system and all of that, how it predates upon younger blood, because that is like the lifeblood of being able to make change, is the younger generation and them mobilizing. Like the biggest changes in the world kind of just happen off of youth movements and worker movements and all that sort of stuff. So I could see that, and then it's like, oh, we want younger blood to be able to like suck it out and suck out that optimism, that hope, that sort of thing. And I do think that's like a cool thing to explore. But if it ends up going down the same sort of route and circling like this despair, instead of trying to make like a greater point or tying it more to like a grounded sort of reality, instead of just making like, let's say, 5 tracks circling the same sort of thing, I could see the album waning quite a bit. But the vocals are really nice.
Are you fragile? Are you torn at the seams? Would you do anything suck your
I feel like this sort of switch up would usually like get me like excited and like into it, but for whatever reason it doesn't feel as earned to me. I don't know.
Won't let the nervous bury me. I've a sin. Our rivers poison. We want the sweet.
I love the vocals, like everything on like form wise of like textures and like execution, it's gorgeous. But it feels like one point an angle on like a thing that we've already dealt with, just one like extra thought on that wrapped into a 5-minute track, and that feels like a bit underwritten or something to me. But like the sonically it sounds fucking pretty. Like Tom York is still one of my favorite vocalists. I love how it turns like the pianos and stuff like more gothic, and it really swells nicely. It's just the like substance behind it is a bit waning, especially compared to like the potential and the ambition that the start of the record sort felt like it was billing. I would say like a 7. It's a good track, and I think that's mostly to do with the fact that sonically it's just so beautiful. I like the staticky. I wonder where this is going. Because it sounds cool, like it's and creative. Your vocals is pretty as always. I really like the vocal performance here. I like the sound more. If I were to have a like this sounds really nice, and it's some of the lyricism I haven't like tied to what I think it necessarily means at the moment. But if we're going to like we're not the same as you, where or you're just murderers, that sort of thing, I find it to be just interesting because we're looking at the start of this, and I understand like the dystopic sort of feel, like this dejected, we're not the same as you, as like a bit of a protest sort of sound of having it through like a more melancholic sort of way. But it I feel like it fails to land the protest sort of aspect of it, of like showcasing the differences between the people that were that are in power. And if I think about like context wise of like George Bush, that sort of thing, going over to Iraq, Afghanistan, that stuff, if I look through that lens, like being like the protest being like we're not the same as you, I feel like it feels snarky. Like it doesn't feel like it gets across the gravitas of the issue. Also, it does it when it comes to like the stuff that is happening. I don't know if that's the right sort of mentality. Now there's like a certain level of horror where I think it sort of does. Like if you were looking at something thinking World War II or something like that, like we're not the same as you, we're not the same, we're not on the same side, we're not the same type of people. I can see that. But when it comes to this, I don't know, like there is like an Orwellian sort of thing that it's touching upon, like well, I'm not the same as the same brainwashed sort of people. That could be a part of it. It could be I'm not the same as the people at top. But I feel like that is a misnomer, especially at this point in time where everyone was basically in the same media ecosystem because everyone was watching centralized media. Like that's where they were getting their information from, or from newspapers or stuff like that. Like independent sort of research was more centralized even as well. So everyone's coming from the same sort of thing. So the people out around you are actually, they're not that dissimilar to you. Well, like in current day, I feel like a lot of people are dissimilar because we just live in separate worlds. But when it comes to like like the people that are buying into the system and buying into like what's happening abroad and stuff like that, I feel like it does a disservice and misjudges the situation to be like they're not the same as me or whatever, because you guys are still living inside the same reality, just different perspectives. And I feel like it I don't know, it doesn't get across the idea that like what the actual problem is, because if you view or feel as if you can't be the other side or something like that, or be in that sort of position, it like the otherizing I don't think helps, because you could be in that position if you just had slightly different circumstances, especially if we're talking about like this time when it comes to the media ecosystem. It's like if you were just like growing up listening to Fox News the entire time, you would be there too. Like, yeah, it's just odd. But I like it more, and I feel like it has at least some more substance, and at least has more of a point than like the last track. And I think it sounds a bit better. So I would give this one a 7.5, like a good to great track. It's just, yeah, I think when it comes to like when it comes to like sticking the landing of like the ambition of like where this record could go and like the points it could be making and stuff like that, I feel like it's dropping the ball a tiny bit. Yeah. Those drums sound so 808s and Heartbreak to me. I like the... This feels less dejected. It's like more of like a thunder underneath it. Oh, I like the guitars a lot here. I feel like it adds like a necessary human element. I'm sorry to put it, but like even with here, like the vocals here, despite the fact that like the tone is actually not too dissimilar to the prior tracks, I felt like the prior two tracks had a bit more of a dejected feel, and with the instrumentation mixed with vocals here, it feels more like human and more lively. And I think that might have been one of the things that like stemmed upon like the last track when it came to like that dejected sort of feel of like We're Not the Same As You being a bit weak, because it didn't feel like as grounded. Where like I feel like there is a place for sort of despondent sort of protest music of like just showcasing your feelings, but We're Not the Same As You, I can see how that is like an emotional statement, but it feels like it's meant to be a more pointed statement when it comes to like disapproving of what's going on. And when it comes from like a more despondent sort of place, that human element like that we see here with the instrumentation, all of that accompanying it, that gives it this push, is absent on that last track, which makes it makes that sound, in my like what I said, like a bit weak and a bit like snarky, where like this comes across completely different because of the warmer instrumentation that gives it a bit of fire and humanity to it, I guess. I like the double speak here. There's a bit of optimism here. Like, I'm learning that I have, like, there's always a sign seeing you to a shipwreck, don't reach out, don't reach out. Like, there's a bit of reassurance there, which is nice. Oh. Oh, I love the vocals so much here, dude. Oh, it's so well controlled, I like it. It sounds so pretty. I love how it's like swells and becomes like disorientating. And see what I was talking about? I'll let it play out, one sec. I'll let it play out. I'd say it's an amazing track, but like, to touch upon what I was wanting to say earlier, see how like this had that same sort of crash, the noise elements that we saw. I really like the sounds here, but the same sort of noise elements that we saw when it came to like a My Iron Lung or something like that from the Bends. We saw that come in here, and I said that it kind of didn't hit on the We Suck Your Blood because it didn't earn it. It didn't have that first bit there because it was despondent and how it sounded. It didn't feel like it earned that crash because it came from a snarky place, not like a more authentic, genuine sort of anger to me. Where with this, we had those warmer tones throughout the entire thing that when it goes into the bit of the crashy sort of shit, that feels like it was earned. I'm like, oh, I really like this. And it feels more cohesive to me. And I think that's like the reason of why like the last track didn't land, but this one did for me. And yeah. That's why I think it's an amazing track.
With white elephants sitting down.
This is a really nice like interlude sort of track. Because it's just shorter, and I feel like it carries that emotion really well. It has that heart. I think it's a pretty great track. Yeah, I think it's for what like a 2-minute sort of track does, like could do, especially on like the back of like the last one, to turn it into a bit more of a somber note where like I'm assuming the next track will pick up from this and have a bit more of like a serene sort of vibe to it maybe. Like to slow down the tempo and the pace. I feel like having this track, it's 2 minutes, this is the best you could get. It keeps the warmth on and then but it slows down the tempo. I think it really like, if I'm thinking of what the next track will end up sounding like, I think this fits. Yeah. Ooh, I like that. I don't know any instruments. I'd say I would assume it's a bass because it feels bassy. I like the piano here too. They work so well together. They're such like a technically proficient band, which is such a pretentious thing to say, but like they just do everything to such like a high quality. Like, the musicianship is always on top. I don't know how neatly this ties into the rest of the album for me. Unless, like, after, like, the Bony King of Nowhere, that sort of thing, No Man's Land, all of that is meant to be, like, once the shit, like, the system subsides or whatever, we're following a person that has, like, is no longer a part of, like, the culty sort of thing, and we, like, then they're in No Man's Land, then they're, like, having issues relationship-wise, and then if I look at all the other ones, Judge, Jury, Executioner, As Dead as Leaves, Ragdoll, it's like, maybe it's like a dystopic sort of tale of, like, a personal, like, figure that is after the, like, collapse of that, like, 1984 style society. Maybe I'm trying, like, that would be a way or an angle that would make me think that the second half of this is a lot more cohesive to me, but I would say it's like a good track. I might have, like, on a re-listen, it might be a tiny bit higher, like a 7.5, but. I like the energy of this. I really love how they use this static. Also, I like how it feels so tongue-tied, like how it sounds. I love the performance, like how he's like showcasing the emotions and stuff like that, like with the pacing of the lyrics and shit. It has such a nice, like, amazing energy. I'll give it like 8.5. I think it's great to amazing track.
I got Myxomatosis. I don't know why I feel so tongue-tied.
I still, even though I feel like it's still like a good to great record, and it doesn't it's like not fully amazing. It had the potential to be an amazing or perfect record to me because of the subject matter and how it delves into that and how pointed all of that sort of stuff is. Also, I love the sound. Even though it's like not fully realizing like the hope in it that I had, or like the anticipation that I had as soon as I started listening to it, I am so happy to listen to something that at least tries to say something than to not say anything at all, and it does. Like, and I'd much rather them attempt and miss the mark than to just not attempt it at all. Like, this record is, I much prefer, let's say, this record in their catalog as something as for them to do as artists, compared to, let's say, they made an album that's a like 8.5, 9 out of 10, but it has no point to it. I'd much prefer that, like, oh, you actually attempted something that like is a bit more meaningful with this album, and I think that's really cool. And I wonder if it's going to be like a through line that I see throughout the rest of their records of them being more pointed, or if they're going to not touch on something like this again, which would be a bit sad. Like, it reminds me of, I guess, like the most recent, like the Strokes Coachella performance. It's like, even if I have minor quibbles about like some of the images that they put up being a bit misinformed, the overall general sentiment is correct. And I think I don't like, even if there's people that I would slightly disagree with when it comes to their politics in art, on like a minutia level, because overall I would say that like me and the Strokes politically would probably line up 99.9% of the time. Like, unironically, I'm not like even being hyperbolic like the fucking like centrists that would be like, oh, we agree on most things. It's like, no, I genuinely think that we probably would agree on most things when it comes to politics. But even if there's things that I would like disagree with, or I don't think it's like framed the best way, or it might be slightly misinformed or something, I feel like we're in such a barren spiritual sort of landscape when it comes to people upholding their principles and speaking like their opinions and shit like that, that I'd much prefer that they make the fucking attempt and I disagree with it than if they weren't to do anything, then not do it at all. Because, like, this might even sound bad, but it's like we live in such a like conservative sort of time period now with like all of the governments that went towards like right-wing stuff and like Trump getting elected, that sort of thing, right? I might even go far as to say, bro, I wish that for the last like few years, if because there was like that conservative zeitgeist sort of shit, I wish the art at least said it. Like, even if it was political right-wing art, I would want to see that. I don't like, but it's just not there. The only stuff we see is like grifter shit with like Tom McDonald and stuff. Like, I want the art to be representative of the time and the principles that the people hold at the time. I don't want it to be some like slop, like corporate slop sort of stuff on all of it. And I don't mean that to mean that you need to have your principles in there. You can make fun, silly music. I don't mind. I actually think I love that stuff, but the balance is whack. I'm being Yoda here. The balance and the force is a bit fucked, and we have none of the meaningful shit, but we have all of the fun shit. And maybe before there was not enough fun shit and there was too much fucking serious shit. But I want both. And we're definitely not having a lot of the meaningful stuff. And I don't even care if it's shit I don't agree with entirely. Like, at least it would reflect the time. At least someone 20 years from now could come back, listen to the music of this year, and be like, oh, that's where they were. Because I can go back and do What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. The way he talks about, I'll be a bit rambly. The way he talks about Vietnam War, all the issues, that sort of thing, right? He details all of those issues at the time of what was going on. And his solution to that is have kids. They're going to be the future. And religion. That hasn't aged the best because my generation aren't religious, and we doom repelled with a lot of us not even wanting to have children. I want to have them, but like so that's something I disagree with. But it's so important that album exists. Like the idea that like that album wouldn't like that didn't if that album didn't exist, it would be the world would be worse. It just would be worse, and I get to learn more of the time there. But we have no relics or artifacts of this time when it comes to the art. Because you might say, oh, there's underground artists that do that sort of shit. Yeah, underground artists don't get the same sort of play over time. Like Marvin Gaye was popular at the time. Stevie Wonder was popular at the time. Michael Jackson was popular at the time. We don't have popular artists doing or saying fucking anything in their art. Like even Olivia Rodrigo, who's the most like outspoken person, right? She doesn't have it in her art. She says it outside of her art. I guess we could have like Lady Gaga if we want to go back to like 2011 with Born This Way, sick track. But if I'm being honest, there was a lot of stuff around that time. Like there was Born This Way, Same Love, that sort of stuff. We could at least point to those tracks. But when it comes to like 2017 onwards, just fucking seems to be like nothing. Especially if we go to 2020s. That's the stuff I'm more known with because I've done 300 albums from last year. There's nothing, and it's just kind of cringe. Yeah. Just do something. This sounds pretty. I like the tone of that guitar a big bunch. Some classic Radiohead vibes. I think it's a great to amazing track. It just sounds really fucking nice.
Drag him out, you in a drag, singing a mess, you snakes and ladders, flip the lid, eye pops the cracker, snaps you in the head, snaps you in the neck, kicks you in the teeth, steel toe caps, takes all your credit cards, get up, get the guns, get the eggs, get the flat in the face, the flat in the face, the flat in the face, dance you fucker, don't you dare, don't you dare, don't you flat in the face, take it where the love it's given, take it where the pinch is all, take it to the tax now, let me back, I promise to be good, don't look in the mirror at the face you don't recognize, help me call the doctor, put me inside, 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 I keep the world from the door, it calls me on the phone, tells me all the ways that he's gonna mess me up, steal all my children if I don't pay the ransom, and I'll never see him again if I squeal to the cops.
See, this is what I was talking about with like I guess like when it comes to the other tracks, like the ones in the middle of the section of this album that have a just I focus more on the atmosphere and less on like the pointed nature of it, like We Suck Your Blood, The Gloaming, that sort of thing. The thing I was kind of missing that the start of the record had was this point, this punch of like there's so much lyrical density here that it feels like I just wish this was throughout the rest of the record as well, because it feels like through the middle of it gets a bit underwritten compared to like this or like the first track and that sort of thing. It has a bit of like a first Arctic Monkeys album, like punchiness to it, which I like. I like hearing Tommy off like this. A bit more punky. It's an amazing track. I'm really happy that like arguably the best songs are the first and last one. It adds a nice cohesion to the rest of the record, even if like the middle kind of is a bit touch and go, despite it sounding really nice to me. Yeah, I very much respect this record. I am very happy that it exists. Yeah, I think like even if it's not like the most quality record, and in that way I wouldn't say it's my favorite or like one of the best, because I would say that this might be better than Kid A, might be, and it might be better than Amnesiac, which would mean it's top 4, 3, 4. I don't know, but because I know OK Computer, the bands are higher, so it might be 3 or 4th, but like if it is 4th or 5th or something like that, when it comes to like the album average or whatever, because the way I do my ratings, like the album ratings here, is I just do averages of the tracks. These ratings are going to change, so you can't just do you won't be able to find out my review based on just doing the math there. You'll get a rough estimate, for my first listen at least, but I do re-listens. But yeah, anyway, besides the point, when it comes to this, even if it's my 4th or 5th, I will end up, like, spiritually, I think this is like my 2nd or 3rd. Because OK Computer is just their magnum opus. But with this, I might even respect it more than the Bends, despite the Bends being a better record. Because I just love the ambition of it. But yeah, great record, incredibly underrated. It never gets mentioned. This deserves to get mentioned. Like, you know how like there was like a lot of people. There was a point in time where I even heard this. And I wasn't even into Radiohead. Where like people like other bands actually, hot take. That's the best Radiohead album, and it was like kind of a hipster pick to do that. Now it's gotten so popular that it's not a hipster pick. I feel like the album that should have gotten that treatment is this. Like the people that are wanting to feel more pretentious, feel better about themselves, to think that they're smarter, that they care about art more, all that sort of stuff. If they wanted to be a little snooty cunt like that, they should have picked this one. It sounds fucking incredible, and the points are stronger. And it has like that substance and shit like that. So I think this is like the pick that if you want to be hipster, you should pick this one. Yeah, solid as fuck. I really like it. And what does that say about me if I want to put that above the band spiritually? I'm a bit of hipster at heart, I guess. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If I don't get Moonshaped Pool and King of Limbs requested, Radiohead might not end up being a monthly artist. So if you want to see that, see them, I wouldn't. Yeah, I just need 1 or 2 people to sub to request those. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I absolutely love you. Yeah, the best. Peace.